So Nixon was cut off with information. Well, there's other stuff in my file where there was probably other reasons for that too. But in any event, a lot of it goes back to the Kennedy assassination and things like that, and some mafia connections. Anyway, since there wasn't any way of getting information out of the CIA or the FBI, Eagle Crow and a couple other people on his kitchen cabinet suggested forming what later became known as the Plumbers. That was a group of burglars to go through the Democratic headquarters to get information on what the Democrats might know about everything going on in the world that he didn't know, that he felt he should be able to find out. So now we enter David Wise. All of this stuff is going on, all this intrigue, all this internecine war between agencies, and enter the Plumbers. They go into Democratic headquarters, and a lonely night watchman sees that a door is taped, followed it through, and discovered a burglary. They were called the Watergate Burglars, which was thoroughly investigated by the press. But there was a big cover-up going on, which Woodward of Woodward, and another journalist, whose name escapes me right now, came across an informant named Deep Throat and essentially speared the whole Nixon administration. So according to David Wise, this case with Mrs. Tannenbaum and Professor Riha scuttled the whole Nixon administration, which is kind of interesting because I never was much of a fan of Nixon anyway. And I find it somewhat flattering when a person's accused me of toppling an administration like that. My only wish is I could do that now. But that's an interesting aside. Anyway, the arrest of the Watergate burglars and the trial doesn't clear things up, but in fact makes things even more murky, or murkier. And it still remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of our time. But I've got to remark on the fact that on the tapes of the Nixon administration, right when the missing section came up, he was talking about China and blowing the whole China deal up, things such as this. And they were blackmailing the FBI with bad information available to be leaked and various other nuances, essentially blackmailing the agency. This went on for a while, and then after it died down, Tannenbaum goes to the nut house. And interestingly enough, there was a woman there named Joan Garner Brown, who, while at University of Colorado, executed the head of the student Nazi party at Bluebell Canyon and pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, and was at the mental institution at the same time as Mrs. Tannenbaum. Now, Alex Hunter, whom I ran against in the 60s and lost, showed me the DA file of the Tannenbaum case. And particularly with her death, she allegedly committed suicide at the state mental hospital using sodium cyanide. It's a real caustic substance and acts really quickly. But I read the deposition statements from some of the witnesses, and they claim she went out to the machine and bought a Coke or a Pepsi or something brought it back in, gnawed it off, and then eventually quit breathing. And when they did the autopsy, they concluded it was cyanide poison. I don't happen to believe that. I think there's a lot more to that than meets the eye. And I plan to go into that on the next session.